From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
Hi, I'm Phillip Carbo, Audiobook Production Specialist at NLS. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to make an NLS digital talking book. This video is intended for network library staff and volunteers who create DTBs for use by NLS patrons. An NLS DTB must meet specific requirements so that they will properly function with the library's digital talking book interfaces, the hardware players, and the Bard mobile applications. This tutorial will demonstrate the key elements of DTB construction. I will be using the Hindenburg Audio Book Creator software to demonstrate how to make an NLS DTB, but there are other tools available for DTB creation. This video is broken into sections covering setup, recording, markup, export, encryption, and tips and tricks. The DTB I'm going to make today as an example is Deadline Artists, edited by John Avalon, Jesse Angelo, and Errol Lewis, to which I have assigned the number DBC 00001. I will be building the DTB based on the recommendations outlined in Draft NG04, Guidelines for Digital Talking Book Mastering, which will comply with the requirements outlined in NS01, Requirements for Locally Produced Digital Talking Books, the governing document for DBCs. Note that these requirements and the demonstration I am doing today are for making books. Magazines can also be made using these instructions, but different rules apply. DTB authoring tools will often be divided into different workspaces for audio recording and DTB markup. Since I am using Hindenburg Audio Book Creator for my demonstration, I want to familiarize you with the layout, which is broken into three main windows: Contents, Manuscript, and Audio. The Audio workspace is used to record and edit audio. The Manuscript and Contents workspaces are used in conjunction to create and edit the elements of a DTB, such as assigning the heading levels, class attributes, and text elements. The first thing you need to do to set up your DTB is enter the data in the Session Properties window. To open the Session Properties window, go to File and then Properties. Enter all of the metadata for the book in the appropriate fields of the Info tab. Hints have been provided to assist you in properly entering the data. Note that several fields are required for exporting a book. I would like to draw your attention to a couple of them. The base file name field is where you set the name of the individual DTB files. The contents of this field can be changed at any time during the session before exporting the book. If you intend to submit this book for posting on the Braille and Audio Reading download site, you should enter the appropriate DBC number in the base file name field. The DBC number should also be entered in the proper format in the identifier field. For details about the proper format of the data entered in this field, refer to Section 3.2, Unique Identifier and Base File Name of NS01. The third field I would like to draw your attention to is the DTB Publisher field. If you enter anything other than NLS Network Library in the DTB Publisher field, the book will not play back properly in the NLS Digital Talking Book Machine. After you have entered your metadata, you should save the session and continually save as you are working. To assist with file management, I recommend saving Authoring Tools sessions with the base file name. In this case, I've created a folder called DBC 00001, and I will save this session as DBC 00001 in this folder. In this section, I will provide guidance on setting proper signal level and demonstrate recording the DTB announcements outlined in Appendix 1 of NG04. I will also demonstrate editing the narration. The recording signal level should be based on the recommendations outlined in NG04 6.6.1. The average RMS signal level for the spoken text should not be less than -24 decibels relative to full scale, and not greater than -16 decibels relative to full scale. Measure your level by taking a sample, no less than 1 minute in length, and analyzing its RMS value. To review statistics, select the sample narration. Choose View Statistics from the Tools menu. Select Analyze. If your RMS value does not fall between the specified levels, adjust the input signal accordingly. Once your levels are set, delete your sample narration and begin recording. Use the standard recording features to capture the narration. For this example, I will use the audio workspace to demonstrate recording and editing the book, Deadline Artists. Use Shift-R to arm the track and then Control Spacebar to engage record.
Deadline Artists, Scandals, Tragedies, and Triumphs, More of America's Greatest Newspaper Columns. Edited by John Avlon, Jesse Angelo, and Errol Lewis.
Refer to Section 6 of NG04 for guidance concerning production and narration techniques and technical recommendations. When your recording session is complete, you should review the audio. During the review process, you may find some areas that need correction. I will demonstrate making a correction in the book, Deadline Artists. Use the specialized recording feature Record Selection to punch in and correct portions of narration that were found to have errors. Locate and select the error using the I as in in and O as in out keys. Then arm the track and choose Record Selection from the context menu. The process will begin with 3 seconds of playback, also known as pre-roll, prior to the error, and then will record only within the selected area. Let's start that again with the audio.
In a small masterpiece of public relations, Detroit's own General Motors gave him a brand new red Corvette.
It's important to set the signal level for the narration in order to achieve a good match of the narrator's voice over days of recording and correction sessions. A good match will go a long way in producing a seamless master, lacking any indication of edits or corrections. A combination of good matches and proper recording techniques will reduce the need for post-production editing. In this section, I will be using the Contents and Manuscript workspaces to demonstrate the creation of the DTB elements as outlined in sections 7.3 and 7.4 of NG04, which will comply with the requirements of NS01. Refer to section 4 of NG04 for background information on the elements of a DTB. Every DTB has a minimum of 4 navigational elements: doc title, doc author, annotation, and closing announcements. I'm going to demonstrate how to mark these points in the book. Using the I and O keys, select the narration of the title at the beginning of the recording. Make sure you select the entire title, including the subtitle, then use Ctrl+1 to mark it as the doc title. Note that the first 4 markers in this tool are preset as doc title, doc author, annotation, and closing announcements, so you do not have to set the class attribute for these markers. Using Ctrl-Alt-T, switch your focus to the Contents window. Select F2 to enter edit mode and change the text element to match the print edition of the book. Repeat these steps to mark the author or authors, annotation, and closing announcements. I'm going to mark the specific elements of this example book, Deadline Artists, which contains a table of contents, 2 parts at heading level 1, and 2 articles at heading level 2. When marking navigable items, note that the narration of the header is marked, not the full narration of the section. In this example, we are marking the header Contents, not the list of items in the table of contents. And here we are marking the header Scandals, not the main content of the part. Using the I and O keys, select the narration of the table of contents. Then use Ctrl+5 to mark it as a nav point. Using Ctrl-Alt-T, change your focus to the Contents window. Select F2 to enter edit mode and change the text element to match the text of the print edition of the book. In this case, the word Contents. Use Ctrl-Alt-S to switch your focus to the manuscript window. Then press the Context menu key. From the submenu called No Class, select the appropriate class attribute for the item. In this case, I will select Contents. I'm going to repeat these steps for the parts and articles in this book. The parts of this book will be marked at level 1. Select the narration of the header of the part. In this case, Scandals. Then use Ctrl+5 to mark it as a nav point. Shift your focus to the Contents window and enter Edit mode to change the text element to match the text of the print edition. Switch your focus to the manuscript and select the appropriate class attribute, which in this case is Part. The articles of this book will be marked at level 2. Select the narration of the header of the article. In this case, I will select I Still Believe, Michael Kelly, Washington Post, 3/18/1998. Then use Ctrl+6 to mark it as a nav point. Shift your focus to the Contents window and enter Edit mode to change the text element. Switch your focus to the manuscript and select the appropriate class attribute, which in this case is Article. These steps are repeatable for every navigable item in the book. Remember that text elements must match the print edition and that a list of acceptable class attributes is available in the appendix of NS01. Properly marking up your book will directly affect the reading experience, so it is important to accurately set the heading levels, class attributes, and text elements. Heading levels aid in presenting the book's material as close to the print edition as possible. Class attributes assist the reader in identifying navigable items. The text elements are necessary for effectively navigating a book using the navigation panel in the Bard mobile application. In this section, I will be exporting the session that we have just marked up. This session contains all of the nav points and audio that correspond to the contents of the print edition. This data within the session is not the final DTB, but it is what the tool uses to create that DTB. In order to render the DTB, the session must be exported. To export your session, choose Export from the File menu and then Export NLS DTB. A window will open, allowing you to designate where you wish to save your DTB. In this case, I'm going to save my DTB in the folder called DBC00001, which I created during the setup portion of this video. In general, it's a good idea to keep the files that are used to create the DTB and the actual DTB together as a good file management practice. I recommend saving your DTB in the session folder. Once you designate the location, the export process will begin and a status bar will display on the screen. While your book is exporting, the program is encoding the audio as AMR Wideband Plus, rendering the data from the table of contents and manuscript workspaces as the NCX and SMILE files, and creating the OPF from the session properties information. The output from this authoring tool will always be a folder called NoDRM. I recommend running the NLS encryption tool to protect your DTB at this time. In this section, I will be running the NLS content protection software to encrypt and protect this book. Once you have exported your book and created your DTB, it is time to protect the content. The copyright exemption that permits libraries to create accessible materials requires that the materials are properly protected to prevent them from being played on unauthorized devices and/or used by people who are not eligible for the NLS program. Before you encrypt the book, make sure you are using the most recent release of the encryption software, which is available for download from the Network Library Services website. The output from Hindenburg will always be a folder called NoDRM. Drag and drop the NoDRM folder of the book you wish to protect to the encryption batch file. Upon completion, check the log file for any problems encountered during the encryption process. Follow the steps in the NLS encryption software installation, instructions, and user guide to check the output. A DTB is not complete until it has been protected. Only a protected DTB can be the master and shall be the source of all distributed copies. This completes the How to Make an NLS DTB portion of the video. In the next section, I will cover advanced tips and tricks that will help you in making an NLS DTB. The instructions in that section are not required for creating a complete NLS DTB. In this section, I will be covering advanced tips and tricks that will aid in efficient DTB production. As with the other sections of this video, I will be using Hindenburg Audio Book Creator to demonstrate the techniques, but there are other DTB authoring tools available. It is a good idea to set up preferences or options in your DTB authoring tool so it performs as expected. The Options window under the Tools menu allows you to change several settings for the program. In the Audio tab of the Options window, you can select different playback and recording sources depending on your available audio interfaces. Designate the source channel and change your default sample rate. In the Interface tab of the Options window, you can change the pre-roll time, turn pre-roll on and off, and toggle the playback mode. In the Advanced tab of the Options window, you can enable or disable automatic leveling. I will discuss automatic leveling later in this section. In the MIDI tab of the Options window, you can configure the program to control a status indicator or cue light. Changes to any of the default option settings will remain for every session, but can be adjusted at any time. Most keyboard commands can be modified or created using the customization window from the Tools menu. For example, the function Record Selection does not have an assigned keyboard command. The NLS Recording Studio staff found that they could speed up production by creating a keyboard command for Record Selection. They chose the numeric pad Enter key as the command, but you can set what works for you. Any keyboard commands can be adjusted to suit your needs. And now I'd like to point out some audio workspace techniques and tips, beginning with the use of auto level. This feature can be very useful in maintaining consistent narration level throughout the duration of the audiobook. Auto leveling can be used during recording or post-production, whatever works best for your studio. Auto level will adjust every region of the session according to EBU R128, which is within RMS range recommended in NG04. In this example, I will demonstrate how to apply auto level to a recording in post-production. Select the audio in the session and then choose Auto Level from the Tools menu. Auto Level will analyze each individual region and adjust it to meet the specifications. Next, I'd like to call your attention to the split markers. The location of the side file split will be indicated by markers at 90-minute intervals in the audio workspace. These markers are used for producing a DTB in accordance with Specification 1202, Digital Talking Book Mastering. The split marker should be adjusted so that the side split does not cut off a word or introduce a bad edit. Another audio workspace feature I'd like to point out is the Favorites window, which can be accessed by selecting Favorites from the View menu. Here, selected portions of audio can be stored for later recall. These clips can be used repeatedly throughout any session on the workstation. Employ a clip of ambient noise from your favorites to correct a mouth noise or other extraneous sound. The last audio workspace feature I will highlight is the Effects bin. This feature allows for the expansion of the DTB authoring tool functionality by incorporating Virtual Studio Technology, or VST plugins. Tools such as EQ, compression, and noise reduction can be used to enhance the audio recording. The real-time, non-destructive nature of the plugins allows the user to return to the session and make additional adjustments at any time. To add a plugin to the session, select Effects from the Track Control section of the audio workspace. Then select the unused plugin Insert and choose a plugin from the list. You can install a third-party VST plugin to your workstation at any time, and the program will recognize it and make it available to you. During the setup portion of this video, I talked about the Info tab in the Session Properties window. I want to point out that metadata can be imported from an existing OPF by selecting the Import button. This feature is useful when some information in the metadata is carried over from one DTB to another, as is often the case with magazines. Also, some of the specific information, such as DC Publisher, DTB Producer, and NLS Recording Agency, is going to be the same for every one of your books. You can create an OPF template and import it at the beginning of each session. One other circumstance where you might want to import an OPF is if you already have a complete catalog record under a local number. You can use the OPF stubmaker to extract the metadata from the catalog and import it into your program. Access the OPF stubmaker tool from the BARD administration homepage, under the header BARD Collection Management Pages. Enter the book number in the appropriate field and select the Fetch the Data button. When the metadata presents, select the Download the OPF button. Save the OPF to your computer and then import it. Note that when you download from the stubmaker, the file extension is .xml. Depending on the authoring tool you are using, you may need to change the file extension. When you import the OPF, it will populate the fields in the Info tab of the Session Properties window. In the course of producing a DTB, some mistakes will be made. Some common markup mistakes include wrong heading level, wrong class attribute, incorrect time offset, and mismarked headers. I'm going to demonstrate correcting each of these mistakes. A nav point that has the wrong heading level and/or the wrong class attribute may be edited at any time during the session. In the manuscript window, select the problematic nav point and right-click. Then select either the correct heading level or the correct class attribute from the contextual menu. To fix an incorrect time offset, select the problematic nav point from the manuscript window. From the audio workspace, grab the portion of the clip indicator that is incorrect and drag it to the correct location. In this example, the clip begin time is too far away from the beginning of the header, so I will adjust it by grabbing and dragging it to just before the narration of the header. Be careful not to cut off a breath. Navigational items can be deleted from the session at any time. Select the problematic header from the manuscript window. Enter edit mode by pressing F2 and then backspace until the header is gone. This will delete the item from both the manuscript and the audio workspace. If the wrong audio was marked, the clip indicator can be deleted and reinserted in the correct place. From the audio workspace, right-click the clip indicator and choose Delete Nav Point from the menu. Locate the correct audio for the header, switch to the manuscript, and hit Ctrl-Enter to place the clip begin time. Then locate the end point of the header and hit Ctrl-Shift-Enter to place the clip end time. This concludes the How to Make an NLS DTB video. For questions or assistance with anything covered in this video, or any other DTB related matters, email me at dtbhelp@loc.gov.
This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.